big brand theory. I think as it was being talked about yesterday, this idea of consumers thriving online, but brands struggling to determine how to match where they're spending their money versus where consumers are spending their time, and trying to figure that out. I think we alluded a little bit to where we think the big brand can go and should go, which is really through activating people. So I think that they're talking about the right things today around the big brand theory, certainly trying to determine how we link creativity and measurement are imperative to that. So it's good discussions today. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think just the reality is there's you can be naive if you'd like. However, the reality is there's no such thing as digital and on and offline. It's all about how consumers interact with your brand and what they experience. So when it comes to spend or to measurement or anything like that, it's really about what do you want your brand to be, what do you want your business to be, and what do you want that meaning to be. And all of the ways to reach them are just tactics, but there are very few ways to reach them that drive the engagement or the responsibility of the brand, like some of the things that we've talked about over the last couple of days really drive, which are the interactive tools, the utility of the web, and the high adoption in personal connections that people have that they're making through some of these one-to-one type connections. So I think it's really it's just the reality. It's the future of marketing. There's really no difference. So the on and offline discussion really is kind of an old discussion at this point. It's really just about how to drive consumer engagement, when and where consumers are and where they're receptive and where they're engaged, and that becomes a pretty easy answer. It's exponential. I don't think there's an end path. It's never going to stop. I think John this morning kind of said it well, as we never thought there would be this kind of fragmentation that we see now. Every day you learn something new that blows your mind on how creative and how responsive and how important nuances that you can actually deliver through the utility of interactive type marketing can provide. So I think it's limitless, in my opinion. We have no idea the power that this is going to bring. So although I believe it's going to bring the power, I think we have no idea what we can foresee, even in the next year, with some of this utility in the web.
Yeah, I think long term it's highly individualistic and highly calculated, and the challenge will be then how to inject creativity and an emotional connection in that way down the road. We use Compete tools to, I think it's Compete Pro is what we use. So that's one of the tools. There are obviously a suite of measurement tools that we look at, and frankly, we partner with Compete in some ways to try to take their data and their services and use it in both determining how to form our measurement plan, as well as ultimately how to get the results and look at those results.
Yeah, I mean, we can use all the data in the world as aids to judgment on how we're reaching consumers and how we're leveraging the power of people. But at the end of the day, you have to be engaged with what you're trying to do, have a clear strategy and objective in mind, and just like consumers have guts about brands, you have guts about how things are working in your marketing. You use the data as aids to judgment, and you continue to try to evolve and improve as a result of all of those things coming together. So there's no silver bullet. I think even how dispersed and fragmented some of our activities or our opportunities are today, we still have trouble harnessing them today. Can't imagine what it's going to be like a year or 2 or 5 years from now. So the watch out is that you get into what we often call analysis paralysis and data overload, and then you stop remembering what you really set out to do. And so really for me, it's about using data as aid to judgment, and obviously with all the suites of tools that we use today, and we use a lot of them, and then making sure that you check your gut and check what you really set up to do in order to make sure that your programs or your strategies are really being met and delivering what your brand needs.
I think that we do that probably every day.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, certainly P&G and Bridge Worldwide as an extension relies significantly on looking at the data and puts, I think, the appropriate weight and faith in that data. But there's a lot of smart, creative people, and it's constantly pairing those two things to come up with work like official sponsor, or you talked about Pampers, some of the Pampers work. I mean, it's happening, I think, throughout the organization.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I think the reality is there's only so much that I'll say quantitative data can give you, because you need to make sure that it's hard to systematize rich, deep insights. So that data is, like, again, diagnostics, aids to judgment, answering specific questions that you set out to answer. However, if you really want to have an impact with consumers, consumers are not robots. People are not robots. We mean a lot more than how I answered a question on a survey. Right. So I think that's aid to judgment, and you've got to just make sure you remember and bring to the forefront everything you've learned about the consumers as you've met them, as you've walked through their homes with them, as you shopped with them, as you've talked about their passions or their families or anything else. You've got to marry those two together every day in your business decisions in order to make sure that you're going to continue to improve your marketing.
And the thing I'd add to that is, and I'm stealing from Steve Jobs here a bit, or paraphrasing, but he would say if you ask people what they want and you gave it to them, by the time you delivered it, you'd be in a year and a half late, if not worse. So I think that's where you get to this marrying your gut and the
Right.
data.
Absolutely.